Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Rob and I are really happy to be here with you to share something that we're doing to equip Georgia's farmers for success, especially those new farmers who may be taking on businesses, family farms, and needing a little bit of guidance. And we're going to talk to you about how we've collaborated to offer them some innovative programming. Um, Rob works with the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center as a business consultant, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. I'm the Southwest District Extension Director in Southwest District, 41 counties here in Georgia, and I've only been in that role for a short while, and I quickly after I came into the role, I was approached by the Small Business Development Center to work on this collaborative piece in our district, and was very happy to do so because we have such an incredible ag community throughout my district, and of course in Georgia as a whole, agriculture is the #1 economic driver with over 13 billion in farm gate value. So extremely important to us, whether it's traditional row crops or more niche farming that's being developed, and we'll talk about that also. We believe, and Rob certainly believes this, that those successful farmers are first and foremost good business people. And so we wanted to support them both on the ag production side as well as the farm business management side of things, and hopefully offer them some information and some training that they would find very practical and very useful, very hands-on. And so just recently in February, we offered a farm business education conference that we were able to collaborate on, and we wanted to share that with you. And we also hope that as we go through this, if you have similar projects going on or something that could help us inform our practices, we definitely hope that we can have a conversation this afternoon about things that we can do to encourage each other and learn from each other. So feel free to enter your comments in the chat box, whether questions or things that you would like for us to know, and we look forward to spending a few minutes with you this afternoon learning together. So just to get us started, Rob, would you like to tell us a little bit about the Small Business Development Center?
Sure. We are also part of Public Service and Outreach for the University of Georgia. And we kind of piggyback on your concept and tell people we're the extension agents for small business. So we come out and we'll do a number of different health checks on businesses and walk them through finances and financial planning, help them with strategy, marketing, human resources, pretty much any pain point that small businesses are going through. And because of our location specifically, we do have an agribusiness team. We cover in the Albany office, we're Southwest Georgia is what we tell people. We cover 27 of those 41 counties. So we do talk with a lot of the same clients that y'all do, and just working together to help them increase their profitability and production options.
Okay, great. Well, we'll get into a few more specifics, but as you all know, farming has definitely changed. I grew up on a farm in Southwest Georgia, and boy, things are different. What my daddy was doing is a lot different from what my brother is doing now on the family farm.
Sure.
And so we recognize the need. Farming, whether it's production practices or business management, it's always evolving. And so we wanted to bring something contemporary that would reach especially those new farmers. So we recognize in Georgia that there are a lot of family farms still. It's not just big companies that have come in and bought out. Certainly that has occurred in some places within Georgia, but 87 to 88% of farms owned in Georgia are still family owned, and they're facing some challenges as they pass those farms from one generation to another. And so we had that in mind as we put together this conference, and we also had a few of their needs in mind. We recognize that the average age of farmers is on the rise. I think for Georgia, it's much similar to what it is throughout the United States. I believe here, the average age of the farmer is 57. And so that tells you something. we have a lot of new farmers hoping to take over those family businesses soon, and there are a lot of barriers that they face when trying to make that transition. So we wanted to give them a help and help them overcome some of those. So that's what we had in mind as we really planned the conference. Rob, what are some of the other needs that you've seen in this time period as farms are transitioning?
Well, in the good old days, as we say, there was a lot of opportunities for farmers to have a very direct relationship with their banker. And they could walk into the bank and say, Ted, I need a new tractor. The old tractor broke down. I need a new tractor. And a lot of times Ted would approve a loan and they'd get a tractor, knowing how his business operated and seeing year after year how they grew. And that was an option back then. With a lot of changes in banking and the industry just in general, it's not as easy to walk into a bank and get a loan anymore. Mm-hmm. They want to see what your production was last year, what your margins were. They want to know everything about your operation. So for people coming into the business, or even sometimes when you have 3 generations in business, the way Grandpa did it and Dad did it, it's not the way we've got to do it moving forward. So right. How do we help them with the transition of that process and help them understand what the banks are looking for now that there's new regulations and standards involved in it?
A lot of change, a lot of challenge. So we brought our 2 arms of public service and outreach together, UGA Extension as well as Small Business Development Center, and we created this partnership. And you can see here we've listed some of the areas of expertise that we both bring to the table, and it just seemed like a natural marriage, natural partnership that we could do more to reach our farm families and to help them be successful. So we'll talk through some of these components as we go through the next slides. But first of all, I just wanted to give you a little bit about the scope of extension in Georgia, and then Rob will do the same about the scope of the Small Business Development Center in Georgia. But just briefly, we have, at the end of 2018, we had 312 county agents across 159 counties. So yes, Georgia is one of those states where we have many small counties, and we have an office presently in each of those counties. And so you can see how it's divided up here, with definitely our Ag and Natural Resources agents being the majority, 146. And again, that just speaks to the great economic driver that ag is, and how much a part of our fabric as a state that agricultural production is. But we also have 51 agents in the area of family consumer sciences, and they definitely do a lot of cross-programming with our A&R agents to address some things like food safety and community gardens. And so they're quite involved in the ag community as well. Food preservation, it all goes back to food and fiber, doesn't it? And so that's what our family consumer sciences agents do so well. And then 4-H youth development. We have 116 agents in working with our youth development program. And in many of our counties, there are agents representing all 3 program areas. Not in all of them, but we do a lot of cross-programming and a lot of collaboration from one county to the next in order to reach the clientele. The interesting thing, and we'll share a little bit more about this, but with the future of farming being an issue, and how are we going to make these family farms sustainable, as we went into this collaboration, we really wanted to bring in a youth component. So we'll share a little bit more about that soon, but we really saw this as an opportunity where we could collaborate across all 3 program areas, as well as with our partners in the SBDC. So this is a snapshot of extension in Georgia at this point in time, and Rob has a quick history lesson for us about the SBDC in Georgia. We realized that SBDC is around the country, but how did it develop here in Georgia, Rob?
Right, great question. So in 1975, Dr. William Llewellyn at the University of Georgia partnered with Dr. Reed Powell of the California State Polytech. They both served on national advisory boards for the Small Business Administration. And they began talking about just the need for there to be a program that would help small businesses grow, combining the educational resources that are available through our land-grant universities, and then government and private sector to support the development of those small businesses. So conversations started in 1975. In 1977, the University of Georgia was one of 7 other states, along with 7 other states, did a pilot process of what the Small Business Development Center would look like. It was hugely successful, and later that year, Senator Gaylord Nelson introduced the Small Business Development Center Act, which was to fund the small business centers. At that point in time, we were trying to get state funding to do this and make this as a viable resource. In 1980, President Carter signed legislation enacting the Small Business Development Center network into law. We got funding through the Small Business Administration. For our model in Georgia, the SBA provides funding for about half of our expenses. And then the University of Georgia and the state of Georgia provides the balance. And then, of course, we do some continuing ed, which is the only thing we actually charge for that helps with our program expenses. So,
Great.
But for us, there are 159 counties in the state of Georgia. That's a lot of counties. We're serving that through 17 different offices throughout the state. Every county in the state of Georgia has an SBDC that services them. So if you look at how the dots are kind of situated, the one long one down there in southwest Georgia, that's the Albany office. That's us, along with Valdosta, closer to the Florida border. We cover a large mass because there is a lot of rural and ag in our counties. So that's why we're kind of spread out that way, is to work our areas. So we understand ag because ag lives where we do. So, but then some of the things that we do for agribusiness specifically, in 2017, we had 119 ag-specific clients, worked on 12 loans in the amount of $5,115,000. And some of that was value-added grants, some of that was loans for equipment or for production, things like that. But over a 5-year, 2012 to 2016, saw 422 clients, 49 loans, $47 million. So pretty big impact when you start adding up year over year what we're able to do. And that's been exciting. We also work with a number of clients that we do success stories with. So some of those include Still Pond Winery and Distillery, Goodson Pecan, who won Flavor of Georgia last year, Weeks Honey Farm, which is a honey farm in our area, White Oak Pastures, which some of you may be familiar with. They're known nationally for what they've been doing down there, and Savannah Bee, Entrepreneur of the Year. But really, at the core of it, our assistance is to help agribusiness improve their financial performance and expand their market opportunities. So in the instance of Weeks Honey Farm, when they came to us, they were looking for help with business planning, financial projections, and marketing assistance. At that time, they were on 150 shelves or in 150 stores at that time. Together, we worked with them, started doing some strategic analysis of where they wanted to be and how to get there, worked on a marketing program for them. So they went from 150 stores, mostly regionally around Georgia, to 3,000 stores in 28 states across the United States.
Wow.
So that's, as you can imagine, huge for a small business. So,
absolutely. That's a great success story.
absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Well, bringing the success of SBDC with agribusiness to our campus here on the Tifton College campus, UGA campus, we came up with this idea to partner and equip new farmers through a farm business education conference. So we wanted to look at crop production training, but also those management skills for farm businesses, as well as sales and marketing strategies to help them with their products. After those successes, like with Weeks Honey Farm and others, just realized that that's something you're not born knowing how to do. some technical assistance on that, so very helpful. And then we wanted to share some policy updates that have affected ag most recently with the Farm Bill and things like that. We also came to this project with having just gone through a major hurricane, Hurricane Michael, that affected much of southwest Georgia, and folks were facing some pretty difficult times. Our pecan industry suffered greatly. They're looking at 10 to 15 years to recover, because I think it was more than 80% of the pecan trees were devastated, were lost. So with that sort of devastation in mind, there was an even greater need than ever before to help folks with some of these issues that were being faced, some of the barriers. And again, we just kept going back to this reality that successful farmers and growers are first and foremost good business people. And so we felt like we could help them on all of these fronts. And we depended on the Small Business Development Center and their great social media skills and some of their support help to do a great social media marketing campaign. So Rob, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure.
How far did it reach? How was the coverage, and what did the plan kind of look like?
Absolutely. Well, as Andrea mentioned, in 2016, we also brought a farm business education conference to Tifton. Had a good response, but wasn't as good as we felt like it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So going into this one, we said, okay, we need a unified message that the SBDC is sending out to clients and that the extension agents are sending out to clients. So how do we do that? So with our expertise in marketing, they said, let's work together and make this happen. So we came up with some good collateral material. We came up with social media posts, flyers that were very uniform, because again, we had 3 different units of the University of Georgia working together. So instead of there being possession kind of back and forth, this is our project as the University of Georgia, and it affects each one of these departments. So how do we take that and then get that information out so that we all share it equally in the marketing responsibilities and really just the event itself?
Right. Well, we were at the same time, a lot of our ag agents had scheduled their production meetings for the beginning of the year. So they were having some face-to-face contacts with them, but it was nice to be able to have the flyers and the agenda information to be able to market this and talk with them face-to-face simultaneously with a good social media marketing plan. So I think we learned some things that we can do differently, but this was definitely a centerpiece of what we knew needed to happen in order to promote the conference, because farmers are busier than anyone else. So to get them to come to a centralized location, for some of them, this would mean not just a 30-minute drive over to Tifton, but maybe even as far as 100 miles, or maybe it would take them even a couple of hours to get here.
Sure.
So trying to find a time that would work well with their schedules. We didn't really pray for rain that day, but we knew that if it rained, it might help us get a lot of farmers here. So it's kind of a tough audience sometimes to gather together, especially when they're getting ready to plant and they have so many demands on their schedules. But in the end, I will share with you a little bit of the successes of this. We were able to increase participation since the first attempt in 2016. So we were very happy with that. And I appreciate all that the SBDC did for helping us market it. To take a quick look at the day, we started early with registration at 8 and welcoming at that point. And we moved into a general session where Walt Moore from the SBDC shared about just general farm management principles. And he kind of addressed that, spanning the generational gaps and what passing along a farm might, what you might need to consider as you do that. And it was interesting in the audience, there were those father-son teams who attended, and it was rewarding to us to see them participate. We followed that with some concurrent breakout sessions that they could choose from according to their interests, according to their operations. So we had a kind of a specialty fruit interest group, horticulture networking group that was available to them. We had a session on pecans, especially as I mentioned with the pecan industry facing a lot of devastation during the hurricane. So they were very interested, and that was had good participation. And then, of course, our row crops are very big in Southwest Georgia. So we had Dr. Fonsa and Dr. Wells talking about peanuts and cotton and small grains. And then we had Dr. Liu and Dr. Rabinowitz speaking to that as well, as far as production updates that would help inform those growers. We had another session for value-added products and specialty crops, thinking of what else. We have a lot of interest, especially from small to mid-sized farmers, in things like blueberries and things like some of the value-added products that they might make from those blueberries. So there was just a wide variety of information available to those, and they were able to choose according to their interests that day. In this next slide, you see some of our agents talking with those interested in peaches and blueberries. We even have some citrus growing here in South Georgia. A lot of satsumas have been developed, and so that's right, very popular. And blueberries, for instance, we used to grow a few, but now they are #1 in fruit. They've surpassed peaches. So folks are really expanding into all areas, many different areas of ag production, and finding good success in it. Here's Jake Price, another one of our ag agents, talking about citrus. He's really been instrumental in developing the whole Satsuma market and does a lot of research trials for Satsuma. And he's our leading expert now, so it was great to have him there that day and talking with those interested in citrus. Just wanted to share the last half of our agenda here with you. We had a second concurrent breakout session time. You see some of the issues there. Dr. Dunn came and talked about food safety. With so much produce being grown in South Georgia, there are a lot of policies and practices that our farms need to stay current on as it relates to food safety. So we had an expert on hand to conduct that session. And then tell us a little bit about the sessions from SBDC, Rob.
Absolutely. So we also had Todd Carlisle, one of our SBDC consultants over in the Columbus area. He came in and led a panel on lender expectation and financing. You know, we talked about how things have changed. So it was good for farmers to hear what the lenders are looking for when they sit down and look at P&L statements and cash flow and balance sheets. Most of our farmers understand that, but then there's that deeper level of how they do the credit analysis and the risk analysis on a loan. And it was just important for them to be able to hear what goes into making that decision so that they better understand what needs to be done on their end to make sure that that the business is profitable and that they are giving them all the details that they need.
That's great. So practical and tools that they won't necessarily inherit when they inherit the farm.
Absolutely.
So, well, that day during lunch, we had a very special session given by our dean, Dean Sam Perdue from the College of Ag, and he spoke on rural stress. And it was a difficult topic. It was just focused on some of the challenges that farm families face and how stressful farming can really be. I really appreciated his transparency on the issues, and I think more than anything that as our dean, he cares so much about these issues and about the families throughout our state who are involved in agriculture. And so it was really inspirational to have him here, and we knew the topic would be heavy in the sense that it was painting a picture of some of those challenges that families face realistically. And so we teamed him up with one of our 4-H success stories. Abigail Turner, she is now a college student, but she mastered in public speaking when she was a 4-H'er just a couple years back. And her speech is on the American farmer. And we'll show you some photos in a moment, but she was able to follow the dean, and she really did a wonderful job of inspiring us that in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the heartaches and the stress of farming and throughout the United States, really, this isn't just a Georgia issue, but in spite of the stress, the American farmer is the modern day hero, putting food on the table and keeping us all fed and clothed. And so we appreciate her contribution to the day as well. And then in the afternoon, there were several SBDC sessions included.
Lisa Rackley is one of our SHRM certified consultants. That's the Society of Human Resource Managers. And she came in to speak about human resource best practices for agriculture. In that same time and session, she brought in Warren Williams from the U.S. Department of Labor, and he was able to speak specifically to the H-2A needs and what is required and what are some of the mistakes that they see and how to avoid those. So it was a really well-attended session, and everyone that went said they got something out of it, both from where I'm at currently, maybe with a smaller workforce, to as I grow and need to bring in migrant workers to do what would that look like if I went to an H-2A program. And then myself, along with Sarah Cook from the Georgia Department of Agriculture, did a session on seed to shelf. So if you're growing something and you're taking it either to a farmer's market or you want to turn those berries into jam and take it and sell it either at the farmer's market or maybe at your local Publix or grocery store, what's the process for doing that, and what are the resources available, which is one of the things that we find is very important. So we were able to talk about some of the resources through the university with our food pick program, as well as we have a class on developing a food product in the state of Georgia. And then Sarah was able to bring the Department of Agriculture side with what are the resources that are available through them to help you in that process and make sure that you're doing it right, following the safety requirements, and that you've got the licensing that you need to do that.
Great. That was very practical. Dr. Rabinowitz from UGA Extension College of Ag, he finished up the day with a general session for everyone on some policy updates that impact agribusiness, and did a very good job helping us understand how policy really does affect our bottom line. And so we appreciate his wrapping it up for us. And, and as you can see along the bottom of our slide there were several sponsors who came along and helped us cover the cost of this. Do you want to mention specifically, Rob, about
Absolutely. There were multiple levels. We all know it's hard to do programs without sponsorships. So we reached out to some folks that we knew, Corteva AgriScience specifically, and they were so invested in bringing this to the market that they said, yes, let us be a sponsor. So they sponsored the lunch and general session. But through that sponsorship really is what kind of put us over the edge to make it possible to do this. We had some more smaller donations that were given in partners, the Ag Georgia Farm Credit and Georgia Department of Agriculture, which again, they were able to present what they do and also provide this as a resource to our region. And then we had a lot of interest from students. Being in Tifton at Abraham Baldwin College and the UGA campus that's here, there were students that wanted to come and professors that wanted their students to come. So we had some people partner with us at a level just to cover their expenses to come, which was phenomenal. But again, it's just that commitment to the industry that they were willing to invest in and bring this forward. So great partners and sponsors for the program.
I think that some of the goals we wanted to accomplish in the day were definitely met. We realized that, you know, one size does not fit all agribusiness, and so we wanted to offer differing sessions with differing opportunities for those participants to really craft their day and get as much out of it as they could. We wanted them to choose the topics that mattered the most to them, and we wanted to offer the variety so that they could whether they were commercial growers or those smaller, mid-sized, small farms who were interested in niche crops and value-added sorts of things, that they would all find something here that they could learn from and take home to implement. So we were excited to spend the day with those participants, and I have just a couple of photos here. I mentioned the youth component that we incorporated. We had an application process for our 4-H youth members to come if they were interested in ag as a career. They applied, and according to their applications, they were chosen to be hosts with us that day, and they were able to sit with the dean at lunch and talk about their career plans with him. And it was very interesting to see what their interests were, all ag related. And those are the green jackets that you see in the photo with Dean Pardue. And then down at the bottom, you see the red jackets. Those are actually our College of Ag ambassadors who are on the Tifton campus, and they also helped us out with hosting that day. Each of them, of course, is studying for an ag-related career, and so we were very happy that the young people were here to serve and inspire us, really, because we believe that farming has a great future in Georgia. And to the right, you see Abigail Turner speaking about her hero, the American farmer, and inspiring us all with a hope for the future. We'd like to just share a few of the outcomes with you for this particular Farm Business Education Conference. We had a total of 85 or so in attendance that day. That was, we had a 44% increase in participant registrations over the attendance at the Farm Business Education Conference in 2016. So I think we definitely learned some things from the first time we attempted this, and we were able to increase participation. And we're not done there. We realized that we have further to go in order to grow this sort of conference. But we did survey the participants. We received 52% of those back from the attendees. And we also realized that the overall registration for the event had been 61 participants. So we were able to capture 75% of those registrations at the actual conference, which was encouraging. And 30 of those 61 actually paid to attend. We had some scholarships available. As Rob mentioned, some students were able to attend, and we were very thankful for really the diversity of the group that we had, as far as just age and experience. We felt that there was just a really good representation for the goals that we had set out to, for the reasons we had offered or wanted to offer the conference. So that's just a little bit on the evaluation stats. We thought it was quite interesting that participants came from various counties. Not all of these are in Southwest District. For example, Fulton County, which had a couple of participants, they would have had about a 3.5 hour drive from the Atlanta area. And so you can see those counties having the greater participants are probably those closest to the Tifton campus. And yet there was interest quite beyond just the local area. So we feel encouraged by that this is something that has widespread interest, definitely. And then just some overall feedback that we gained. On a scale of 1 to 5, we're just showing you that most of those answers, most of the evaluation returns said that rated the conference at a 4.4 or higher, depending on what was asked, but they felt that the information was presented effectively and was very practical. It's significant to me, Rob, that 4.7 saw the information as very practical. So again, another goal achieved. And others said that the program provided a good working knowledge of the subject matter presented. and that it allowed them to acquire those practical skills to manage their business more effectively. So not just on the crop production side, but on the business management side, skills were gained. And then others said that the program that they attended was sufficient for their purpose. I think that being a little lower just shows us that there's more need that we can address as we go along, and certainly there's a need for this sort of continued education for our farm families. Any other observations, Rob, on the day?
Well, just it was a great day, and I think we did get some good information that will help us kind of craft future programs that may need to be included that do help address specific needs for some of the farmers that were in the audience.
Well, it was a pleasure to work with SBDC on this, and as President Eisenhower said, you know, farming looks mighty easy when you plow's a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from a cornfield. So we're right here in Tifton, Georgia, in the middle of the cornfields, right. And we're trying and peanuts. That's right, not to leave anyone out, but we are definitely in the midst of agriculture here. It's our #1 priority, along with the families involved and the residents who live here and benefit from that in the economy. And so we are thankful to have had this opportunity and that it was a practical experience for our participants. I just want to acknowledge those who collaborated with us either through the SBDC or Extension on this project. And again, very thankful for the audience that we were able to reach, very thankful for the youth participation through 4-H and our college ambassadors. And at this time, I think we will let you have the opportunity to ask us some questions.
Yes, go ahead and please write any questions or comments you have into the chat box. And while you're doing that, I just want to take a moment to thank Andrea and Rob for being with us today and sharing this great information with us. We really do appreciate it.
We've enjoyed it. And if you have similar projects that you're working on, we would love to hear about those as well. And I'm sure we can make our contact information available to. Can this be easily replicated? Well,
easily, I don't know.
We to let you know the manpower that went into this, we started meeting back in November, I think, with a monthly meeting, and all the way up until the conference on February 27th. So you see kind of from this slide the manpower that was involved. About half of those were presenters, and about 10 of us were those on the organizing committee. So especially if you have an SBDC handy to collaborate with, I would think that this is very doable and very worthwhile.
And it is something that we are planning to replicate in other districts across the state, just to bring that information and experience to different markets as well.
That's a good point, Rob. We had a meeting this morning and follow up to begin plans for next year in our neighboring Southeast district. So I think that, you know, momentum will continue to grow and participation will hopefully increase.
While we wait for some other comments or questions to come in, I did just put into the chat box the link to where you can view this recording later today, as well as any of our other webinars that we've done in this series. So feel free to check that out. That's in the chat box for you. Any other comments or questions? I know sometimes it might take a minute to craft your questions, so we'll give you one more minute, but speak now.
Feel free to contact us if you'd like to talk one-on-one about this, and we'd be happy to speak with you about it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, it looks like you guys were so thorough in your presentation. No one has any questions. But that's okay.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Yes, and if anyone thinks of questions later today, feel free to contact Andrew and Rob. I'm sure they'd be more than willing to talk to you. And once again, we want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to join us today. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.